This is David again. This is a continuation of finding networks and panels. One of the problems that we come across in our finding the panels is that we will go out, you will create a network. It's very easy to go out on the network and find the MAC address, but finding the panel can be difficult at times. So some of the things that we do when we are having a difficult time in finding a panel are, number one, we will change the serial speed. You should be set up most often at a 9600 on your serial speed, but occasionally you will find that you can't find the panel. You want to double check your dip switches to make sure 1 and 2 are down in that case, or in my case with 57.6, 1 and 2 are up. You want to make certain that your serial speed on the panel is the same set up in your software. That's one of the key components that we find. The second component that we find is if we go in and we start troubleshooting on this and we do an IP config, we will find often that people have forgotten to double check and make sure that their panel is exactly the same as the PC. So you always want to make sure your gateway is exactly the same. You always want to make sure your subnet is exactly the same, and you want to make sure your first 3 entries of your IP are exactly the same. And this is, you will not find a panel if those are not correct. Gateway type, always make sure that you're double checking to make sure that if it's an IP panel, it is the onboard. If it is a converter, the MDN32, that you select the MDN32. Another thing that you always can make sure of is you want to make sure that on your panel itself, on the bottom right hand side, you have an RS-232 to 485 switch. Most often we will need to be on the 485. So double check if you are using a network connection or if you are using a MD14U cable to connect. It always should be to the right on the RS-485. One of the other things that you can do is simply close the software and reopen the software, and at times this will help you find the panels. Another thing that we also do is we go to the task manager, we go to services, we will stop the Axtrax server and leave it stopped. Then we'll go down to the SQL server, Veritrax, which is the SQL that our software is installed on. We will stop and start it, and then we will come back up to the Axtrax server and restart it. One of the things that I didn't mention before that, you should close out your software, and so then you'll reopen it. With all of those troubleshooting aids, you should be able to find your panel.